I think we can all agree that the default WordPress login, registration and lost password pages are a little lacking in style and branding. Well, they have plenty of branding, but it just happens to be WordPress branding. But that's not what most of us actually want to see. In today's tutorial, we'll be taking a plugin for Elementor Pro that opens up a lot of possibilities when working with Elementor forms. While we'll only be focusing on the login, registration and lost password forms, if you'd like to see what else this plugin can do, well, drop a comment in the comment section below, and if enough people are interested, I'll create some more content covering those things. Okay, so let's start by taking a look at what we'll be building in this particular tutorial. So this is our custom login page. We've also got a register link and a password recovery option, so we can log in here and we can set up where someone's going to be logged into based upon their user role. When they log in, we can set different redirection models for each individual user role, which is pretty cool. We've also got the registration page, which allows us to do various different things to deal with registrations. If you've enabled that as part of your site, you have to enable the registration process, or this just won't really do anything the way you want it to. And finally, we've got the lost password page, or the lost password feature. Now, this is one of the key things that a lot of people, even though they've got plugins to deal with registration and also to deal with login, the lost password tends to be that sort of poor cousin that nobody really pays any attention to, and you just default back to the standard WordPress option. Well, I'm going to show you how we can create these 3 pages, but also how we can deal with the redirection of the lost password and also the registration, so we can make sure that we don't use the default WordPress options to break out of this fully styled sort of setup. So for this tutorial, we'll be using the Actions Pack plugin for Elementor. So the Actions Pack page doesn't really look particularly interesting, but we're not bothered by the look of the page. We're bothered by how well this all works. And let me just quickly tell you what it really does. It's not a plugin that's going to suddenly add in a lot of widgets. It's simply going to add extra features to the built-in Elementor Pro Forms feature. So we can add in things like front-end user profiles, reset passwords, user login, and so on. So tons of really useful options to really power up what the normal default Elementor Pro form can do. Now, for these features, this is not a free plugin, but the pricing is very, very reasonable. And let's just quickly take a look at that pricing. There's 3 tiers. We've got bronze, silver and gold, depending upon the type of features that you actually need. Then you've also got 1, 3, 20 and 500 site options. So if you go to 500 sites, it's still not crazy expensive per year, $150. It's not too bad. And you get obviously that percentage, I believe it's about 30%, something like that, renewal discount. Let's take a look at the bronze, silver and gold. You can see all of them have the registration options. However, the bronze is probably the most limited package. And let's be honest about it, most of us are going to want to go for the gold package. $20, and I think at the time of recording this, there's a 19% discount on it. So it works out probably around about $14, something like that. So I purchased this, no affiliation whatsoever to the company behind it. I kind of thought it was a good plugin. I want to take a look at using it. So with that out of the way, let's now move on. Now I've gone ahead, purchased this, installed it, and activated it. Like I said at the beginning, this is an Elementor Pro add-on. You have to have Pro because we need to have the Forms option. Without that, it's not going to work. So make sure you don't purchase this if you don't have Elementor Pro or don't intend to use Elementor Pro on a particular project where you want this feature. So now we've taken a look at what we'll be building and what tools we'll be using. Let's start off by creating the 3 key pages for our entire login process. We're just going to add a new page, and from here we're going to give this the title of Login. We'll publish this and we'll repeat this 2 more times now so we can add in the extra pages. So the second page we're going to add in, and obviously you can name these whatever you kind of want. I'm going to call this registration, and we'll publish that page, and then the final one is going to be the lost password. Okay, so let's just add that in, and lost password. So that's our 3 key pages created, ready to start building them. So let's move on to the first of our 3 key pages, the login page. We'll start fleshing that out and adding the important functionality to our login form right now. So what we're going to do is choose exactly what template we want to use. So from the document option, we're going to come down to template and we're going to set this to be Elementor Canvas. Main reason, because we don't want headers and footers or anything else to come into play for this design. We'll edit this with Elementor and we should then have a blank canvas to work with. Okay, so what we need to do now is just create our form element. Now I'm going to quickly apply a little bit of styling to this, and then we'll take a look at the form element and how everything is set up. Okay, so there's our basic login page setup. We now need to drop in the form that we're going to use. So we're going to come back to our widgets and we're just going to grab the standard WordPress form, drop that inside there, get rid of the message, and then we're just going to tweak this. We're going to get rid of the label. So now we have a basic form entry, but at the moment it is just a form. It doesn't really do what we need it to. So we need to change a few things. First of all, we're going to change this name and we're going to set this to username. But it's entirely up to you how you want to set that up. So we're going to say username. Obviously, this is going to be required. We can jump to advanced. We can set anything in there. So we're going to just say this is going to be set to username. If we wanted to reference that somewhere else, come into the email and we're going to change that from email. I'm going to change it to password. And again, we're going to change all these values as well to password. So it now makes sense, and the same on the final section. So now we've edited this to give us a login form. But at the moment, it's just a normal form. So we need to change the actions after submit. We don't want email. We're going to get rid of that. We're now going to scroll down. And we're going to see we have some new options: register, login, and reset password, among some other ones. We're going to choose the option for login. We now have the login option, at which point we can set all the parameters that we want directly inside here. So if we take a look, you can see we can choose to log in via ID and password, ID and OTP, ID, password, and OTP. Now, if you're wondering what OTP is, it's one-time password. So we're going to say is ID and password. We're going to leave it as that, so it's the standard kind of login. Now we just need to map the fields from our form to the fields that are needed for the login widget. So what we're going to do is where it says user ID, we're going to click on there, choose the fields, and you can see username is going to be the ID for the user. Then password is going to be password. That's all you realistically need to do, but we do have some extra options that really open up the functionality of what you can do with this plugin. What we're going to look at though is the options for redirection and additional settings. But if you want to set the remember me option, you can do that. You just need to create a checkbox field for it. Up to you. I'm going to leave that out for this example. Redirection. Now this is where we can choose what user levels will be redirected to what particular portion of our site. So for administrators, for example, you may want to leave that so they go into the normal WordPress admin. And you can see leave empty to reload the current page. Well, we wouldn't want to do that. We want to send them over to the admin section. Whereas for the editor and the author in this example, I'm going to send them to a custom front-end dashboard. For the contributor and the subscriber, I don't use those. So we're going to leave those blank as they are. Then at the bottom, we've got the additional options. You've got your logout redirection URL. So where do you want to redirect to after logout? So you can set a custom link inside there. And you also got the default login page redirect. Now, all that really means is the normal wp-login.php page, we don't want to use that. We want, whenever anybody tries to access to log into our site using any of the methods, we want them to come to this particular page. So what we need to do is change that over now to specify that this is the page we want to link to. So I'm going to do that. The first one we're going to set up, I want that to go through to the normal WordPress dashboard. So wp-admin. Then for the editor and the author, they're going to go through to the custom user dashboard. So I'm going to drop the same link into both of those. And then the default login page redirect, I'm going to just set that to be my full URL. And then we're going to put login at the end. Now, this is important to bear in mind. You can't use relative links inside here. You have to use the full link, including your domain, subdomains, anything whatsoever. So if you don't, you won't get it to work properly, as I found out earlier myself. Okay, so what we've done now is we've set up the redirection links based upon the user role, and also if anybody tries to access the default login page for WordPress, they'll get pushed over to this particular page. So that's the redirection side of things all set up. Additional settings, if we click inside there, you can see we can do a couple of different things. So we've got hide form and display logout link. Hide form, this will hide the form from logged in users. So if you don't want people to see the login page if they're logged in, then you can choose to set that to hide the form. And the display logout link is whether you want to have that in place, the login form kind of thing. So up to you which way you want to go about that. I'm going to leave those off as they are. But other than that, that's the basics of our login form done. But we need to do a couple of other things. We need to put a register option. So if someone comes onto the login page and they haven't registered, they can choose to register. And if they've forgotten their password, well, it would be nice to have that forgotten password. So how do we do that? Well, the easiest way is to just drop some links in. So what we're going to do is we're going to come back and we're just going to do an icon list. So we're going to drag and drop that underneath. Oh, and what we also need to do is change our button from saying send to saying login. Would make a lot more sense then. Okay, so with our icon list, we're going to get rid of this last one and we're going to just change these over. So the first one is going to be register. Change the icon to something a little bit more useful, and we'll find something like a user, for example, and we'll say insert that there. And then we're going to do the same again for the one underneath. We're going to change that over to password recovery, and we'll just change this over and we'll just choose this one. We'll do for now, it doesn't really matter too much. And then we're going to set these to be inline, and we'll also center them. So what we need to do now is just link those up to the relevant places. So for the register, we're going to click on there and we can just do a search for our register page if we want to. So we can type in register and you can see there's our registration page. That will put the full link inside there for us, and we'll do the same then for the password recovery. And this is why it's easier to set up those pages right at the beginning, even though we haven't actually put any content into them yet. So now we've set up our registration link and our password recovery link, and that's our login page done. So we'll hit update on there. And we've now got a custom login page. So let's just test that out now to make sure that it's working if someone tries to access the normal default WordPress login section. So I've opened up a completely different browser. Now we're using Edge. And what we're going to do is on the home page of the site, so we're just going to come in and access the WP dashboard like we would normally would. So we'll do WP-admin and we'll hit enter. And you can see we're now taken to our custom login page. So pretty cool, we've got that set up. We've got the register, so we can click on there. You can see registration page, you go to the right location, and the password recovery, and the same thing again. So now we've created our login page. The next thing we need to do is start working on the next pages. So now that the login page is complete, the next page we'll turn our attention to is the registration page. So with the registration page open, we're going to do the same again. We're going to change the template to Elementor Canvas, and we'll hit update on there, and then we'll just edit this with Elementor so we can start working. Once that opens up, we're just going to paste in the previous design. So you can see everything is inside there. And all I've done is copied and pasted this over. We'll change this login to registration. And what we're going to do is we're going to change this picture. So each one of these just has a different image so we can immediately tell which one's which. Just a nice visual way of making things look a little bit cooler, a little bit more interesting. Okay, so we're now ready to drop in our form again. So we're going to come back over, grab our form, drop that into the registration area. And what we're going to do, we're just going to tidy things up a little bit. We'll change that button. We'll change that now because I'll forget otherwise. So we say register and account. Okay, so what do we need to do? Well, we need to configure these form field elements to make sure that we've got what we need in there. So name, email, and password, and a confirmation password at its bare minimum. You can, if you want to, add extra fields in there, but for most registrations on most sites, unless it's like e-commerce or something like that, that's going to be enough. You don't want to overwhelm people with tons and tons of information requests that you don't really need. Okay, so name and email is perfectly fine. Let's just add another field in. We're going to call this password. I'm going to give this a label of password. We'll just quickly copy that into the placeholder, and I'll go into advanced and give the ID password. I'm going to do the same again. So we're going to duplicate this, and we're just going to change this, and we're going to just call this confirm password. And the same again, and we'll just change the ID to confirm. Okay, so let's just quickly edit these, make sure everything we need is inside this. We're going to change this to username, and we'll do the same across all these. Now, you don't really need to do this. I just like to do it because it means that everything is configured. It's easy to see. And if I come back in 6 months' time and I'm thinking, what was I doing here? At least I know what I'm doing because it's all been named accordingly. Okay, so there's the basics. We've got our registration form set up, and we just need to do the same thing again. We're going to come down to our actions after submit. We're going to remove this email, and we're going to choose the option for register. Open up the register option, and you can see we've got the same thing again. We need to first of all choose what user role this is going to be assigned to. So it depends on what you want to do, but for most cases, the subscriber user role is going to be the bare minimum. And then if you want to control it afterwards from the admin, you could do that. So we're going to leave it as subscriber. The username, we're going to map that to our username. You can see we've got the option for auto generate, and it's up to you if you want to use that. For me, I would rather the user get access to be able to do this themselves. The password, we're going to change that and select password from there. And you can see if we want some extra fields like the email, the phone number, and so on, we can choose those different things as well. Now, obviously, we're using the email, so we'll just quickly map that option and we'll say email. And you can see we can choose to apply verification if we want to on there, and we can also do notifications. So if we do the verification, you can see how do we verify this particular account? Do we want to send a link or a one-time password? And you can see you must enable the notification option below and paste in the shortcode AP verification in the message box to send a unique link or one-time password to verify the user's email ID. So depending upon how you want to go about dealing with this, whether you want to have a confirmation, you can choose whether you want to use this option. So I'm going to say I do. So I'm going to say I want to send a link, and we're going to set the redirection URL and all those kinds of options up. So the easiest thing to do is we're going to copy this little AP verification shortcode. We'll copy that from there. We're going to enable the notification. You can fill out any details you want that's relevant to you, whether you want to send plain or HTML, those kinds of things. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to make a bit of space above that, and we're going to drop in that little shortcode. So that now basically says, thank you for registering on our site, and it'll send a verification link over. And then you can choose where do you want to redirect to. So where should the user be redirected after a successful verification of email ID? Leave empty for the current page. So what you would probably want to do is to drop in the actual login page. So once someone's registered, confirmed their account, they can get redirected to the login page. So we're going to drop the link in there, and we're just going to put in login, which is the link to our page. So we've now set up email verification. A link will be sent through to confirm the account, and then we'll be redirected to the login page. So don't worry if this is the kind of thing that seems a little daunting. Just take your time, read the information that's on there, so you kind of get full grasp of exactly what it is you're setting up. And you may not even want to set up the verification. It's entirely up to you. You've also then got options for things like manual verification. So you could be adding a lot of users in, at which point you may want to manually verify those from the dashboard of your site. So as an administrator, you may want to log in, check those email addresses against the list you may have, and then confirm them. If you want to use that, just check that box. If you don't, leave it unchecked. And then under additional settings, you can see, do you want to allow automatic login as soon as they complete the registration process? Redirection, hide form, stop next actions. Each of these has information on it to show you exactly what they actually mean. So take a little bit of time and have a read through. For our use case, we're going to enable the redirection, and we're going to do the same again. So we're going to have this redirect to the login page. So we just drop in the link to our login page, and there we go. So that's basically our registration page completed. So we'll update that, and we've now got a fully working registration page. So let's test this out. Let's go to our registration page, and let's just register a new user. Okay, so there's my sample user data. Let's just register this account. You can see the form was successfully sent. We'll save our password. We've been taken over to the login page. We'll just hit save so I can save my password. And now we should have an email with a registration link to allow us to confirm this account. Okay, so there's our registration email. You can see there's our custom code. When we click on that, that will then go ahead and take us over to the site, and which should give us the option to log in and verify the account for us. Like I say, this isn't something you need to do, but it is something quite useful if you want to add that extra little level of security to registrations on your site. And there we go. Using that code takes us over to the login section, puts our details already in there for us. So now we can click login. Depend upon the user level will depend upon where we'll actually get sent to. And finally, let's complete the building of the lost password page before we wrap up with the redirection code. So we're going to do the same again. So our template, we're going to change that over to Elementor Canvas. We'll update our page, and then we'll just simply come in and edit with Elementor. As before, I've already gone ahead and copied the design over. So I'm going to paste that in, and we'll just change this from login, and we'll just change it to lost password. And as before, we'll just change this image over to something else, something a bit more relevant. So what we're going to do is we're going to change it to this one where people look like they're just wandering around a little aimlessly. Okay, so same routine again. Come back over, choose the form option, drag and drop that into our page, quickly disable anything we don't want, And we'll just change this button over so it makes a bit more sense again. So we'll set that to reset password, and we'll just drop in a little icon. So we'll just put a user in there and insert that. Okay, so we've done the first couple of things. Now, obviously, name and email is not what we want. We need to have the username and a password field. Even though you won't see the password field because this is a lost password form, we still need to put that in there. So what we're going to do is, first of all, we're going to change the action after submit from email, and we'll just remove that from there, and we'll set this to be the option for reset password. So you can see it tells you exactly what's going to happen, and we come to the reset password. You can see we've got login ID and password and reset through. So let's just change these form fields first. Name is okay, but we're going to change that like we've done before to username. Again, so it just makes sense and has continuity around everything that we're doing. And then instead of email, we need to change this over to password. Change these details over. And once we've done that, we are then good to start mapping things. So go back to reset password. Our login ID, we're going to set that to be username. Password, we're going to set to be password. So you can see then reset through link or one-time password. Up to you which way you want to go about it. I'm going to leave it set to link. The link one-time password is to be sent via, again, you can choose what you want. You can send it via SMS if you have that option, but email is probably going to be the most logical way for most users. Then you've got the options for the actual settings, the email settings and so on. So if we open that up, you can configure your email settings, the message you want to send, the format and so on. And the same then, we've got additional settings. Do you want to hide the form for logged in users? So there's a kind of general feel to this. It's all pretty self-explanatory and straightforward. So this is our lost password setup. Now you won't see this lost password option if you go to reset the lost password. This is kind of hidden there, but it has to be part of this to make everything work correctly. So that's how easy it is to set up your lost password. So we've created the 3 key pages. We've set all the functionality up on there. We've tested most things out. Everything is working the way we need it to. So finally, let's just update our page so everything is saved. And if you want to go and test this out, which obviously I would recommend you do, run through a test on your own site just to make sure everything is working. But it's all pretty simple and straightforward. So as before, let's just make sure this is all working the way we would expect. So this is our login page. We've tested the register out. Let's go to the password recovery, and you can see we can now drop in our username, hit the reset password, and that will send us the password information. And as I say, you can see the password field is hidden and can't be seen. Now, it's no good making these custom pages if anyone with a little knowledge of WordPress can simply type in the link to the default WordPress pages and access those. So to avoid that, we'll add a little bit of code to our functions.php file. But don't worry though, it's really simple, and you can just simply copy and paste the code that I'll supply to you, and well, you'll pretty much be all set. Now, the way we're going to work with this to deal with the redirection is not the best way of working. Normally, I would do this either through FTP or I would do it through the file manager tool inside my hosting account. That's the way I would recommend you do it. But in a pinch, and just to demonstrate how it works, we're simply going to come into the appearance option into the theme editor. And from there, we're going to make sure that we've got the theme functions file open. And you can see this is in a child theme. So just make sure that you're working with a child theme if ever you're going to make any changes to your functions.php file. So we're going to paste the code that we want to use in, and I'll give you a link to this, or I'll put it in the description below, whichever works the best. So you can just simply copy and paste this over. Now, let me just quickly show you what's going on. We've got 2 separate different filters. We've got the redirect registration page, and we've got the redirect password page. So this is just going to handle the registration and the password, lost password pages, and redirect those from the default WordPress to our current design ones. So I'm not going to go through all the details because I don't think you need to know too much. There are a couple of things I just want to draw your attention to. So if you have differences, you'll know what to update. Now, let's just take a look. There's your function. It's named, and then this is the actual function itself. So what it's saying is, if someone goes to wplogin.php and they use the action of register to redirect them to this particular page. Now, registration is what we've called the page when we've created things inside this tutorial. But if you name yours differently, make sure you put the slug inside there to the relevant registration page. Otherwise, you'll get an error or things just won't work correctly. And then underneath, we've got exactly the same thing. So if someone goes to the WP login page, use the action of lost password, redirect them to the link for our lost password custom page. That's it. And again, if you make a different change to the name of your lost password page, use that slug inside there as well. That's it. That's all you need to know. We'll update that file, and now we can test things out. Okay, so this is the test homepage again for our site. And if we bring this down a little bit so you can see my address bar, if I just drop in what would be the default link to register. So there we go. There's our wp-login.php, action equals register. That would take us normally through to the default registration for WordPress. However, we've set a redirect up on there. So now when we hit enter to go to that link, if anybody uses that, they'll be redirected to our custom registration page and everything will be updated accordingly. So now we've controlled that, stop people accessing the page that's the old default. Let's just test this one more time now. This time we're going to change this over from register to lost password. And again, we'll hit enter and we should find that takes us over to our lost password page. Now this would be the perfect accompaniment to the custom WordPress dashboard or custom front-end dashboards. Now if you'd like to learn how to build those, check out this playlist now. So if you like this type of content and would like to see more, please give the video a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button and smash the bell icon. But if you didn't find it useful, well, you can feel free to hit that thumbs down button twice, as that works pretty well too. As always, all of the applicable links for everything I've covered are in the description below. My name's been Paul C. This has been WP Tuts, and until next time, take care.